Good evening. It is 7 o'clock. I'll call to order the January 21st, 2025 meeting of the Fort Atkinson City Council. Clerk Everett, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Becker.
Here.
Councilman Jekyll.
Here.
Councilman Johnson.
Here.
Councilman Schultz.
Here.
President Lesko here.
Here. Item 3, public hearings. There are none this evening. Item 4, public comment. The City Council will receive comments from city residents. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anyone wishing to speak is required to sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon: name, address, subject matter, and contact information. No action will be taken on any public comments unless the item is also elsewhere on the agenda. And note for those who are following along on Zoom on a hybrid meeting, if anyone on Zoom wishes to speak during the public comment period, please raise your virtual hand through Zoom. The chat box is not monitored during the meeting, and those on the call, please remain muted if you are not recognized to speak. No one has signed up in person to provide public comment this evening. At this time, I would invite anyone who is following along on Zoom who wishes to provide public comment to please indicate so. I do not see anyone on public comment. We will move on. Item 5, consent agenda. The consent agenda outlined below is hereby presented for action by the City Council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda on the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president.
I move to approve the consent agenda as listed, items 5A through 5G.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the consent agenda as listed, items 5A through 5G. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 6, petitions, requests, and communications. There are none this evening. Resolutions and ordinances. Item 7A, first reading of an ordinance relating to zoning map amendment to change the zoning district for a portion of the property located at 401 Madison Avenue, parcel number 226-0514-0412-006, from urban mixed use UMU to single family residential SR7. Building and Zoning Administrator Drager.
Yes, thank you. You'll see that along with the zoning map amendment, there's also a CSM that's attached to this that kind of goes along with it. The CSM will show that the zoning amendment actually goes with the newly developed single family lot to the south of the existing lot. The current property is zoned urban mixed use, and the creation of this new lot is conforming with both zoning districts. So the existing lot that's being shrunk is conforming to urban mixed use, and the new lot is conforming to the SR7 zoning of the new single family lot there. The anticipation here is that that single family lot will be sold and a new single family home will be built on that at some point, which is some more of the infill lot creations that we've seen lately over the last few years here since this new zoning ordinance was put in, which is nice with our need for additional housing. Like I said, everything as far as setbacks and all that is meeting that requirement. It is in concert with the comprehensive plan. And I think the only deviation from meeting all the ordinance and setbacks is the existing lot has an existing 2 flat structure on there, which is has an office area as well as a single or a living unit is attached to it. There is a front setback from Madison Avenue that does not meet the requirements, but that's existing, and this creation of the secondary lot does not affect that in any way. So it does not change that standing. And then with that, I'll take any questions, but city staff does recommend the city council confirm the first reading of this ordinance and direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading at the February 4th, 2025 city council meeting.
I will also note that the Plan Commission did take a look at this at their last meeting on the 14th of January and did recommend that the City Council approve both the certified survey map and the zoning map amendment.
They also did hold the required public hearing, which we had no comment on.
Any questions for Administrator Drager?
I would move to direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading at the meeting on February 7th, 2025.
Second. A motion is second to move the item onto its second reading. Any discussion?
I will just note that that meeting is on the February 4th. I think that just a typo in your document there.
Did I
the-
say 14th?
The count, no,
Oh.
It's a typo.
there's a typo on the document that the council.
Yes,
has. It's the February 4th city
February
council
4th,
meeting.
2025.
I apologize.
I
I was making
apologize.
sure that I didn't do something wrong.
Okay, with that noted, any further discussion?
Nice to see additional potential infill development. And I think this is a good concept.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, motion is to direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading at the meeting on February 4th, 2025. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Reports of officers, boards, and committees. Item 8A, City Manager's Report. Manager Hausman.
Thank you. At the fire department promotion and honors ceremony 2 weeks ago, James Slocum was named the part-time firefighter of the year. Firefighter paramedic Owen Peachy was recognized as a full-time firefighter of the year, and Captain Mike Vorpal was awarded the Fire Officer of the Year honor. So I just wanted to congratulate them all. I did not have that information officially when I was here 2 weeks ago, so I just wanted to recognize those folks. Also on Monday, I participated in the promotional ceremony for Lieutenant Vanessa Leonard. I was pleased to be part of the ceremony promoting the first female member of the city's police department command staff. And I also got to see Moose Tracks. Moose Tracks also came to the ceremony, so that was nice. The city's recruiting firm has released the initial job announcement for the Public Works Director recruitment process. The full position profile should be available soon, likely this week or early next week. The city's website has more information, including a video that we put together, as well as the job announcement. And please feel free to forward that to anybody you might think is interested and qualified for that role. The deadline for applications is February 19th. The deadline to participate in the Boost Fort Atkinson Business Competition has been extended to January 31st. As a reminder, the chosen business will receive free rent downtown for a year, and educational workshops will begin on February 6th. You can visit the city's website for more information and how to register for that. We continue to move forward with the Ridgeview Estates subdivision project. That is the land along Banker Road. Land use applications, including a certified survey map, preliminary plat, and 2 planned unit developments will begin moving their way through the Plan Commission City Council review process at the end of this month and the beginning of next month. Tomorrow, we will celebrate our staff with an employee holiday breakfast starting at 7:30 a.m. in the fire department. City council members are welcome to attend if you are available. And lastly, on Monday, January 27th, I will be participating in a League of Wisconsin Municipalities event at the state capitol. The event is titled The Workings of Wisconsin Municipal Government, Local Functions at a Glance, and is meant to communicate with new state legislators, legislative staff, and the governor's staff, as well as some state agency staff relating to the functions and operations of city and village government in Wisconsin. I'll be presenting information relating to public safety services. So I look forward to meeting some of the new legislators and others and describing the services that municipalities provide, along with the challenges of providing those services. And that's all I have.
Thank you for the report. Item 8, excuse me, item 8B, Interim City Engineers Report relating to Ridgeview Estates, Banker Road property. Engineer Burt.
Thank you. Yeah, as you mentioned, I've been having a number of meetings with Rebecca and the contractor and developers out there, and we thought it'd be good for me to provide an update myself, being involved with that, not only to kind of supplement what I provided in the memo, but also be here to answer any questions that you may have. So it basically want to update you primarily on the unexpected soils that were encountered out there. Once construction began, and I don't know if everyone has the map that was provided, I'll kind of reference areas of the project so you kind of have some context there. Once construction began, they started over on the west side of the development, so you'll see the Marigold Lane, and there's lots like 1 through 14 are on that west side. They began construction and largely beginning with the grading operations of the site. And during that process, they discovered very early that the soils they expected below the topsoil were not what was expected, not what was found in the soil borings that were conducted. With any site development project, especially a large one, the most cost-effective way to go about the site development is keeping all of the soils on the project. You don't want to have to pay to remove soils offsite, and likewise, you don't want to have to pay to truck material back onto the site. So a lot of times the designers will shoot to have what they call as a balanced site. So maybe moving materials around in the site, but they're still keeping it all contained on the site. That's by far the cheapest way to go. So in doing that, they conduct a bunch of soil borings, which they did in this case. I think there was 25 initial soil borings, and those all proved to prove that, at least at those soil borings, that there was good material beneath the topsoil that could be used for road building and other infrastructure. Once construction began, as I mentioned, they discovered that the soils differed from what was found in the soil borings, and differed in quite a negative way in terms of wanting to build roads and infrastructure. We're referring to it often, and you'll see it in the memo. It's called non-structural material, almost like a topsoil type material, but it's not anything we would want to put underneath the road, or anything that you'd want to build anything on top of, including driveways, home sites, the roads. You don't want to backfill with utilities and that sort of thing. And so the contractor conducted some additional test pits, and and that was in an effort to find, what type of footprint are we looking at for those poor soils, and then also what kind of depth, because that material would need to be removed from the road right of way in order for us to, build a road that could support the pavement and a long-term project. So once that was determined, then the problem is basically twofold. How do we get good structural material to build the road? That's one. And then what do we do with all this excess poor soils? So the first part of that, the first question with regards to the structural material, that we were able to answer, pretty quickly, in that there's a PUD, I think it's lot 71 on that plan, that was verified to have good structural material beneath the topsoil. So that topsoil was stripped, and the contractor started to excavate that and move it over to Marigold to start the road building process. So that was fine. Then the second part of that, or the second question, is what do we do with the poor soils? And that's been kind of a combination of things. Some of it was hauled back to the PUD lot. Some of it was hauled and stockpiled in other locations within the site. And that's an ongoing discussion and study by the engineer to find out exactly where we can go with the remaining excess. In the meantime, I think everyone has done a great job, putting their heads together and trying to brainstorm ideas for, removal of this poor material. And in fact, we just learned yesterday that up to 12,000 yards of excess material will be taken away free of charge by largely landscape contractors that can then use that topsoil in their projects as they move forward. So that's, when you think potentially $8 to $10 a cubic yard to remove soil from the site, that's a pretty significant cost savings. Before moving on, then we further discovered during the course of them removing this non-structural material that the lower layer, I'll say, of this poor soil was filled with like tree stumps, just trees in general, chunks of concrete, I witnessed them pull a giant like loader tire out of there, you know, so all things that really aren't, you know, good for use, you know, in developing a site. And it's even, you know, really hard to find a place to essentially bury that or hide that stuff. And in this site in particular, you know, that's more challenging because we're already trying to find spots to lose this non-structural material. So with that, initially the contractor was authorized to start trucking some of that stuff to, there's a site in Cambridge, I believe. So they started with that and hauled, I believe, for 2 days. Then I think there's a few loads, 10 or 12 loads, I think, that went to the city's dump. So it's 160 some yards, I believe. But then lastly, largely due to costs, we directed them to dump the remaining material. If on your map there, it's just south of what is called their northeast detention basin or stormwater basin. So that's in an area right now, if you're familiar with the site, it's a agricultural, you know, farmed field area. It's outside both the phase 1 and phase 2 of the Banker Road development. And we are confident that the disposal of that material can be essentially designed into the future design plans for the development on the east side of Banker. And likely very close to where that storm pond is. There's usually, usually becomes like an outlot or an easement area, not used for any building development, and there's usually setbacks and things from that. So we can essentially dig like a large trench around that, you know, on the south and potentially on a little bit on the east side of that pond, and bury the remaining amount of that junk material. So we've gotten through, I think, the removal of the junk material. And so now they're just strictly moving on to removal of the non-structural, locating it on site somewhere, and then backfilling the road corridor so they can continue with the road building process. As I mentioned, the exact quantity of that non-structural is yet to be determined because they're just discovering as they're excavating the road, they're determining, you know, are we still encountering this or are we not? But in the meantime, again, the team, I think, is brainstorming for ideas to, you know, incorporate as much of this material as possible. Things, you know, ranging from, you know, some slight design changes of the road, in particular Peony. I know the designer is looking at changing essentially the elevation of that to allow for incorporation of more material, changing the grades of essentially the block enclosed by Marigold and Peony, which by removing there's a storm basin, I believe, in the middle of that. He's looking at removal of that and then filling that site pretty substantially. So that would remove a bunch of that non-structural. So long and short of it is we're getting closer to getting a more definite volume of that material, and we're brainstorming, you know, the least cost alternatives to dispose of that material, you know, on site. But I'll just say, I guess at the end of the day, there might be, or there's likely a chance that some material will have to be trucked off site somewhere just to dispose of it. There just simply isn't any room that we can just, you know, leave this amount of material stockpiled. So with that, sorry, going long, but anybody have any questions? I'm definitely here to answer anything you might ask.
I will just also note that, you know, we wanted to provide an update on this project to the city council. No action is requested tonight, but in the future, there
Right.
may be a change order or two relating to this. So we wanted to make sure that the city council and the public was aware of that, that we're working through these issues as they come up, but there will likely be some change orders associated with this.
Yep. Yeah, and all in an effort too. We didn't want to have, you know, normally, I mean, my belief is as something comes up and if there's a change, get those approvals in place, but at the same time, especially with many of the unknowns in this case, we didn't want to have to continuously kind of come back to the council and maybe, talk about something. And then the next meeting is like, well, that really didn't pan out. Now we're, changing course. So we're just trying to gather that information so we can report back to you, one time essentially with a change order, and one that has limited the amount of a cost, so.
What depth are soil borings typically taken to?
Yeah, so typically, kind of depends on what you're drilling for. But like in this case, say for like a road construction, the deepest utility or infrastructure typically is the sanitary sewer. That's the deepest in the ground. And you usually want to go at least a couple feet deeper than that. So then the full depth of where you might be putting that utility, you have a solid understanding of what soils you're going to encounter. In say like a storm basin there too, you kind of have a rough idea what the bottom of the basin is, and you want to go, at least probably 5 feet below that, so you understand what the soils may be. In this case, I think they, because there is also it's also a development project, and some of those soil borings are taken outside the roadway. Those I don't know exactly what the depth is, but usually you'd want to take those deeper than say a basement elevation. So again, you have full, or you're more confident at least to know what type of soils you may run into. Now, as this project is, and I've run into many times, you're taking a soil boring which is 6 inches in diameter. So it's telling you, yes, exactly what the soils are in that hole, but 3 feet over could be something else, could be bedrock, yeah, could be, the junk material that we talked about. And none of that was discovered in those soil borings that were conducted initially. So, but hopefully that answers your question.
So the soil borings would go as low as what would have uncovered these if you just happened to luckily hit upon them.
Yeah, it was, unluck of the draw basically on where they conducted these. It just didn't encounter this poor, and I guess what they ultimately determined is that this particular area was at some time way back in the past, like some sort of a borrow pit of some sort. And then it's because it was clear that this is all fill material. It's not native material, it's all fill material. But anyway, yeah, it's just unfortunate that wasn't, picked up, with the soil borings that were conducted.
Also, to be clear, when you find something like a loader tire, you're not looking to bury that somewhere else, right?
No,
We're looking to get rid of that.
Absolutely. That's kind of in that we have this
Just wanted to
non-structured,
be-
yeah, then we have this kind of like this junk, we're calling this the junk category. So we're not, yeah, we don't want that anywhere, under any infrastructure. And in this case, yeah, it's not going to be buried anywhere in the development site. Like I said, no, in the tire too, that is separated, that's going to landfill. The only junk material that we will, when I said design into a future plan, that's just the mixture of the soil and like the tree, the tree stumps and pieces like that. Still, organic matter, I'll say, it will get buried.
Andy, I appreciate the update. I was just curious about the junk, the
Yeah.
tires and stuff that have been found. Were those isolated to primarily one area of the development, or were they kind of scattered?
Yeah,
all
if you're looking on your map, they're right in, at least where I saw this one come out is basically on the west side of Marigold. Where Peony intersects it. So I think you're around lots 3 and 4, right in
Mhm.
that area. And it was basically right on the edge of the right of way of Marigold at about lots 3 and 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
The current cold snap aside, do you anticipate that work will continue on?
Yeah, I know they want to continue as much as possible. This week is at least the utility contractor. He told me this evening, likely they won't be back at all this week. But they do want to, with the weather then changing a little bit, they do want to, get back at it and continue working. So likely next week, you'll see both the utility contractor as well as the earth moving contractor out there. So yeah, they want to continue as much as they possibly can.
Great. Any other questions? No? Thank you for the
Okay.
update.
All right, appreciate it.
Item 9, unfinished business. There are no unfinished business items to take care of tonight. New business, item 10A, review and possible action on a design contract for the city's 2026 water main replacement and street improvements. Water Utility Superintendent Armstrong.
Good evening. This RFP is basically a mirror image of the ones we've done in the past. I think everybody's probably been around for one or two of them anyway. So, so this RFP is for the 2026 water main design work on Jefferson Street from Hake to White Street, all of it. That cul-de-sac back on White back and there off of Jefferson, Clover Lane from North High to Rogers, and then Oak Street from Harrison to the dead end of Oak Street now. So approximately 4,000 linear feet of work will be done. We received 4 bids out of about a dozen that we sent out. All firms are very qualified for this work. As you can see from the bids, R&M was a low bidder at 61,644 with Verbicker next at 64,600, but Verbicker did not provide any geotech services, which would be the soil borings. So, and that was one of the demands of this contract, that we have soil borings in there too. So, like I said, we've had a good relationship with all 4 of them. And I mean, we've, especially Rupert and Milky, they've consistently met our goals the last 4 years of this. So, staff would approve the low bid of Rupert and Milky, and based on the low bid and the work and history in the past, to approve it with them.
Okay. Any questions?
More streets that definitely need to be done.
Yes, like I said, and I've said this in the past too, you can really start to see the benefits of this. We've had a lot less problems the last year and a half, 2 years that we consistently had previous to this. So it's showing that it's working.
I would move to approve the design contract for the city's 2026 water main replacement and street improvements to Rupert Milky in the amount not to exceed $61,644.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the design contract. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm just curious with hiring, outsourcing this to Rupert and Melky. Would it normally have been done in-house?
No,
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 No, this
Rupert
is-
Milky has done the design work for our water main replacement program for the last 3 years. at
yeah,
least.
4 years now
4
coming up.
years.
Like I said, we've solicited out every year to different vendors, and looking basically for the best design and the lowest bid. So, and they've consistently met, both ends of that. So,
Okay, I was just curious if I was missing Andy more than what I needed.
no,
to.
no, this is.
No, I just wanted to add, I appreciate this program. I know it's taken a lot to start making headway on some of that water main replacement, but it definitely seems to be paying long-term dividends. And I just want to compliment, you had 4 very high quality firms submit bids, and nice spread between the bids that
Yeah.
were submitted too. So good to see.
Yep. Oh, so-
We do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the design contract for the city's 2026 water main replacement and street improvements to Rupert and Milky in an amount not to exceed $61,644. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Thanks.
Thank you. Item 10B, review and possible action relating to a master services agreement with Rupert and Milky Incorporated for engineering services through December 31st, 2025. Manager Hausman.
Thank you. So in 2022, the city council approved a master services agreement with Rupert and Milky for professional engineering services, and that ran through the end of 2023. And we recommended that because we, at the time, were unable to fill the assistant city engineer position. As you may recall, before we made that into a city engineer position, it was vacant for about 3 years. And recall in December, the city council approved an agreement with Ruckert and Milky to serve as the interim city engineer until such time that the city engineer is hired, or a public works director is hired, and that public works director and I kind of determine a path forward for that position, as it's been very challenging to hire. So this master services agreement is an extension of the previous agreement that the council got in with Ruckert and Milky. This will not require any additional funding by the city unless or until there are additional task orders associated with specific projects. So for example, the agreement that the council approved in December relating to interim city engineer services would then be considered a task order underneath the master services agreement. We just didn't have one in place at the time. So now we are correcting that, having this master services agreement. And for most projects that are significant, any dollar amount in nature, most task orders, they will come back to the city council for approval prior to engaging in them up to a certain dollar amount. And I think it's probably $7,500 or $10,000 or something of that nature. But if tasks are for specific projects, they will come back before the city council. So this doesn't have a financial impact on the city, but it is entering into an agreement with Ruckert and Milky, and it would be through December 31st of 2025. So staff is recommending that the council approve this master services agreement through December 31st, 2025, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. I'd be happy to answer questions if I can, and we have our interim city engineer here who would be happy to as well.
Any questions?
No, it's definitely clearly necessary with everything we have going on in the city. I'm glad we were able to make this arrangement.
And it's been successful so far. We've enjoyed working together. I think we've got a good team moving into some of these complicated projects that we've been working on.
I would move to approve the master services agreement with Ruckert and Milky Inc. for engineering services through December 31st, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agreement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the master services agreement with Ruckert and Milky Incorporated for engineering services through December 31st, 2025. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 10C, review and possible action relating to a certified survey map for the property located at 401 Madison Avenue. Administrator Drager.
Yes, so we discussed this earlier in the agenda, and this is just the certified survey map portion of that approval. It does meet our land division ordinance. And I'm welcome any further questions you have with it. Otherwise, staff recommends the city council approve the certified survey map for the property located at 401 Madison Avenue. This was also just for record viewed by Plan Commission at our previous meeting as well, and it was recommended, the city council recommend approval.
I move to approve the certified survey map for the property located at 401 Madison Avenue, subject to the conditions recommended by staff and the Plan Commission.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the map. Any further discussion?
The only question I had is, I assume it's just because there's an existing garage that there's a goofy bump in the layout.
That's correct. Yeah, we cannot allow a accessory structure to be the primary structure on a created lot. So that was requested that it remain attached to the original parcel.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion is to approve the certified survey map for the property located at 401 Madison Avenue, subject to the conditions recommended by staff and the Plan Commission. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 10D, review and possible action relating to rescheduling the regular city council meetings to accommodate the 2025 election schedules. Clerk Ebert.
evening. Thank you for that. We have two elections that are scheduled for 2025. The first one being Tuesday, February 18th, the second being Tuesday, April 1st. The February 18th is going to have a primary for Superintendent of Public School Instruction. And forgive me if I butchered the full title. And then also there'll be a local judicial race for the county. Requesting that the council meeting for February 18th be transitioned to Thursday, February 20th. And then also our Tuesday, April 1st election, which does have our city council in there, requesting that be transitioned to Thursday, April 3rd. So this not only allows my attendance at all events, but also allows council to attend and vote the elections, but then not have parking issues when we arrive on those evenings for the council meeting, as many stalls are taken up by voters, which is what we want. Happy to answer any questions if the council has any concerns. This is something we typically reschedule annually when we do have elections.
I would move to approve the rescheduling of 2 regular city council meetings to accommodate the 2025 spring primary and general elections as outlined.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the rescheduling. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve rescheduling 2 regular city council meetings to accommodate the 2025 spring primary and general elections as outlined in the staff report. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 11, miscellaneous. There are no items this evening. Claims, appropriations, and contract payments. Item 12A, review and possible action relating to the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorization of payment.
I move to approve the list of verified claims as presented by the Director of Finance and authorize payment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the verified claims as presented. This is a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Jekyll,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz,
Aye.
President Lesko Hair.
Aye, motion is approved unanimously. Item 13, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.